Hi there, my name is Taiwo Peace, and I want to welcome you on this free filmmaking masterclass on Coded Film Academy. We basically made this video for people who are interested in filmmaking, and here are three objectives we want to achieve with this. The first thing is for you to understand what filmmaking is all about. Then the second thing for you to understand is what opportunities are available to you in filmmaking industry all over the world. And the last thing is for you to understand you yourself, the kind of place you can get in filmmaking. Like I do tell people, you need to understand your area of strength, because if you come in from your area of strength, you'll be able to get more chances and more attention and achieve more results based on your area of strength, rather than just coming with open-minded. It's not always good to come into an industry without having an understanding of what that industry is all about and how you can fit in perfectly. Now, having said that, let's start with the first objective, which is what is filmmaking? It's simple. Filmmaking is all about storytelling. Simple. Storytelling. And the good news is everybody has a story to tell. Everybody. Everybody has a story to tell. And the first thing you have to understand is, what story do you want to tell today? Whatever story is coming to your mind is something that can be turned into a film. Now, before we go further, we need to ask another question. Who is a filmmaker? I told you filmmaking is all about storytelling. But then, who is a filmmaker? The obvious answer is a filmmaker is a storyteller. Now, having said that, let me break it down into simpler fashion for you. There are 5 core aspects, personally, that I identify as the major of filmmaking. Because whether you are making a short film or you are making a lengthy film, it's all the same. You cannot do without these 5 core areas of filmmaking. You cannot. There is no film that you can make. As long as you call it a film, there is no film you can make without touching these 5 areas of filmmaking. The first aspect is script writing. The second aspect is film directing. The third aspect is cinematography. The fourth aspect is film editing. And the last aspect is acting. All these 5 aspects are core areas you have to understand that any film, whether it's short or lengthy, cannot do without. There are other aspects. There are lighting, there are sound, there are lots. But these 5 core areas is something you cannot do without. Whether you are even shooting with your iPhone, you cannot do without 5 areas I just mentioned. Now, let's ask the question again. Who is a filmmaker? A filmmaker can be a scriptwriter. A filmmaker can be a film director. A filmmaker can be a cinematographer. A filmmaker can be a video editor. A filmmaker can be an actor. And a filmmaker can be a sound man. A filmmaker can be a light man. A filmmaker can be a film producer. Now, you have to understand that all these people, though I call them filmmakers, they play different roles on film. Because no single film, no single person can produce a film without all this aspect that I just mentioned. So if you're calling yourself a filmmaker, it doesn't mean you have to do all these aspects of film to make your film. It just means you have to understand your area of expertise and develop on that area. So let's now go back. Who is a filmmaker? I said a filmmaker is a scriptwriter, which takes us to the second objective I want to talk about, the opportunities available in the film industry. Now, let's take for instance, you want to start a career as a scriptwriter in film industry. What are the opportunities and what are the barriers? The first thing I want you to look at is your area of strength. It's very important. Don't just look at the money. Don't just look at the film. Don't just look at the credit. Look at your area of strength. For instance, if you are not somebody that likes to write, then script writing is not for you. Because there's no way you can be successful in that aspect. Because there are other aspects that you can actually take advantage of. But if you like writing, then script writing is for you, because the first foundation of being a professional scriptwriter and a successful one at that is you must have interest in writing. And not just interest, you must love writing. Because how do you sit and write 1,000 pages of a script? And not just writing, you have to be creative about it. So if you're not someone that is creative and can write, then script writing is not for you, so you should not consider it. Then the next thing is film directing. Now, this one is very broad because film directing encompasses all aspects of filmmaking, because as a film director, you must have an idea of what scriptwriter is, so you can actually identify a good script from a bad script. You need to understand what cinematography is all about. You need to understand what video editing is all about. You need to understand some part of acting. You need to understand lighting. You need to understand sound. And because that is why you are called director, which means you must invest time in knowledge about scriptwriting, about every aspect of filmmaking. So if you are not patient enough to learn about all these aspects, there is no way you can be a good director. And the underlying tone of a film director is the ability to relate with everybody. You must have good interpersonal skills. If you're not the kind of person that can relate well with people, then film directing is not for you. A film director is people's person. You must be a leader. You are leaders of men. You are encouraging people. You are inspiring people. And you are also looking at the technical aspect of them to ensure that you are achieving your objective. You are the one that will set the schedule of the film shoot. So if you're not the kind of person that can lead people to achieve a purpose, then you're going to have a problem being a film director. But having said that, it's not something that you cannot work on. If you think you can work on it, you can lead people, you can gather people to achieve an objective, then you can try it. But if you know you are not patient enough to handle shit, to be patient enough to encourage people, to be patient enough to ensure that people achieve what you're trying to achieve, then you should not consider film directing. Then the next thing is cinematography or director of photography. Now, if you have passion or love for gadgets, you like carrying camera, you like snapping, you like taking pictures, you like taking videos, you are just passionate about just snapping almost anything, then this is for you. But if you don't have passion or patience enough to study gadgets and achieve the best shot, then you should reconsider. If you're not that patient to handle gadgets or be on it just to achieve a perfect shot to tell a story, then you shouldn't consider cinematography. Then the next one is video editing. Video editing sounds very simple and just to edit, but it's not. You can take months to edit a clip of 1 hour. Because as a video editor, you must have two things: creativity and great attention to details. I say that again: creativity and great attention to details. Editing is all about details. So you are taking different clips together to achieve the story that the film director is already told you. Mind you, I said everybody, scriptwriter, video editor, they are all storyteller. So by the time they recorded everything, they give it to video editor to join them together to tell his own story. And that is where your creativity and attention to details, because when I say details, there will be error on location. There will be some shots that are not perfectly fitted. It is your attention to details that will make you to be able to substitute for those ones that are bad for the ones that are good. If you don't pay attention to it, that's why when you watch a film, you'll be able to this is error. Some of them are traceable to editor. Most perfect video that you have seen is telling you that the person that edited that video is very good and they pay attention to details. So if you are not patient enough to be creative and pay attention to details, then video editing is not for you. And now to the final one, which is the most famous: acting. Let me shock you. Anybody can be an actor. And here's why. There is nobody on here today that will never tell a lie. If you're watching this video and you tell me you'll never tell a lie, then you're telling a lie already. And if you have told a lie and people believe you, then you can be an actor. Because I do tell my students, a filmmaker is a professional liar. We're telling a make-believe story. There is no story you are watching, the one you have watched before, the one they will make tomorrow. There is no story that is truth. Even when they are telling a story that is, and they said this story is inspired by life event or an autobiography, the person acting that film is not the person that story happened to. So it's a make-believe. So you can be an actor. The only thing is interest. As long as you are interested to be an actor, you can be an actor. And the other job is now dependent on the film director. And the final one is film production. A film producer. You can be a film producer. If you are not the kind of person that is interested in paparazzi, you don't want to be in front of camera. You see, there are many people in the film industry today, all over the world, that you don't know. But they are the ones that are actually making the greater amount of money from the industry. And those are the people behind the scene. If I ask you today, if you're not really interested in filmmaking, if I ask you today to name 10 great film directors in, let's not even go far, in Nollywood, Nigeria, how many people can you mention? If I tell you, mention 10 cinematographers in Nigeria today, how many people do you know? But if I ask you mention 20 actors in Nigeria, you can mention that without even skipping. You know why? Because they are the people you are seeing on the screen. But the people that are making the job easier, the people that are making it possible for those actors to function, are the people behind the scene. Those are the film directors, the cinematographer, the film producer. Now, let's go to the film producer that I just mentioned. So if you're the kind of person that have access to financial resources, you have people who have money and are willing to invest in film industry, then film production is for you. Because all you just have to do is take money from these people, invest it in a film, make your box, and everybody is happy. Now, the two things you have to understand is, to be a film producer, you must understand the technical aspect of filmmaking. You need to understand what makes a good film and what makes a bad film. And what makes a good film and a bad film is just the storyline. And when I say storyline, I'm not saying the story you are telling. I'm talking about the technical understanding of filmmaking for stories. I'll break that down in the next, which is the concluding part of this. But to buttress this point, as a film producer, you must understand, like I said, the technical area of filmmaking, then the business side. There's no point you raising money without understanding what that money will make. I'm always very, very careful to analyze this logic for everybody who care to listen. Film production is very, very stressful and demanding. You don't want to invest large money into it and go down the drain. There's a lot of people who are in trouble today because they just saw it in news that wedding party make this money, this make this money, and they just thought it's easy to just go into the filmmaking, produce your best film and go and make money. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to understand the business side of filmmaking. The way you sell chewing-gum or the way you sell sweets or the way you sell in other industry is not the same way you sell in film industry. There's a lot of technical area that is involved. There's a lot of things you need to learn in selling your film. And I do conclude by telling my students that what makes a best-selling author does not mean they are best writing author. The best-selling authors simply know how to sell their works. And you as a film producer, you must know how to sell your works. Because it is in selling your work that will give you the funds to produce the next one. Now, to the former question I asked, what makes a good storyline? 4 things. As I conclude, 4 things make a good storyline. The first thing you have to understand is, no matter how good story you're telling, people make this mistake a lot, to think that anybody can watch your film. No. Every story have a primary audience. You must understand that your story, even if you're talking about a cat, your story is talking about cats. Your cat story has an audience, which will be people that love cats or people who are interested in cat story. And now, by the time you now identify your audience, that takes you to the second part. of storytelling, language. Every audience have a language. You don't want to be telling a story about legal profession and you don't understand any legal term. You can't back up any of your storyline with legal language. Then you already lost your audience. What storytelling techniques taught us is by the time you identify your audience, you go into research to understand how to communicate that story in the language of your audience. Then that takes me to the third aspect of storytelling, which is plot. Now, plot in my own definition is about the main event of the story. What happened in that story? Let's say your plot is about a guy who is 57, who has never gotten married, and he wants to get married. That is your plot. Now, understand this. Every story have two sides. Yes, every story, every plot have two sides. The first side is conflict. Your guy, 57-year-old, is not married, and you want him to get married. The second side is the solution. For every conflict you create in your plot, there must be a solution. If you create 3 plots, you must create 3 solutions. That is why you will see stories that have sequels, part 1, part 2, part 3. It's because they fail to tie all the loose conflict in that story. That's what brought about the second sequel. You don't create a second sequel without leaving the... What led to the second sequel is because they did not conclude all the conflict created. So if you have passion to create sequel, you have passion to be creating series. That is why you can leave some of the conflict you create in your film to be hanging for people to talk about it. But if you want to tie every loose end, every conflict you create must have a solution. If you create 20 conflicts, you must create 20 solutions. And finally, the techniques. And that is what deal about filmmaking. The director understanding their role, the cinematography understanding their role, the video editor understanding their role, and the actor understanding their role. And that is what we want to teach you in Coded Film Academy. If you want to know more about the techniques, how to make a better film, how to be a perfect filmmaker, and here is my passion for this. I've been in the film industry since 2005, and I've attended so many training. And my passion to create this particular course is, or this academy is, to create access to young people who don't have the funds, who don't have the financial resources to achieve greater things, because we have a lot of creative people today who are lagging behind, not because they're not creative, but because they don't have access to this kind of information. We want to provide information for you. We want you to have access to all-around information so that you can also be great like the people ahead of us. I did my first scriptwriting training in 2009. I did another one 2012. I did another one 2013. And all this put together, they cost me about $1 million plus. I want to do another training in film production in 2015 or thereabouts on New York Film Academy. And where I was thinking like, okay, it's going to be a summer. We'll travel and we'll use one stone to kill as many birds as possible. And let's just study filmmaking abroad. By the time I look at their tuition fee, ladies and gentlemen, I have a change of mind. Then by the time we converted what they're doing for 6-week training, I think it was about 15 million, thereabouts, in $21,000, 6 weeks. And I was like, wow, that is enough to start a business in Nigeria. But if you have that kind of funds, you can go there because there are so many opportunities there, but that is not the basis of this. Now, if you're going to study in that kind of place, you have access to only one course. You're either going to pick cinematography or you are picking video editing or whatever. You have access to only one course. And plus, this course they're giving you is just totally theory. Maybe at the end of the course, you can now have what you call final project, where you can be part of others so you can actually see what filmmaking is all about. Then you are still limited because you just have one part knowledge of just filmmaking. So I said to myself, what happened about creating a school where people can learn cinematography, learn script writing, learn video editing, learn everything about video editing, not just the theory aspects, understanding it from practical aspect. A school where you go to and every week you are making a film. And you are not just part of a group. You are making a film by yourself, leading others. That is what gave birth to Coded Film Academy. And if you join us, that is what you are going to gain. Practical knowledge of filmmaking. Everything I've said to you so far took me 12 years to learn. I'm still learning. Because filmmaking is a broad subject. It's not something you can say you know it all. As I'm teaching, I'm also learning because there are new things coming up every day. New cameras are coming up. New things are coming up. So you have to keep evolving, adapting to new situations. So even if you're a filmmaker at the moment, you still need to learn more. And you still need to collaborate. So if there's any question you want to ask on what I've said so far, or if there's anything you want to add, please feel free to add a comment below. And you can also reach out to us on all our social media platforms or on the numbers shown on the screen, and we'll be glad to get in touch with you. So thank you for staying to the end of this video. I hope you gain one or two things. And if there are things that you think I'm supposed to say that I did not mention and you have a question, feel free to get in touch. I'll be glad to be of help. So thank you.